Now streaming on Serious Joy. Catch the Self-Study Hall replay from last week as Robbie Hunt gets into using Virgo energy for personal achievement. Then coming up this Wednesday is our monthly welcome party. A cast of star-studded Serious Joy favorites give new subscribers a behind-the-scenes tour of the magic. It's not too late to sign up and join the party on SeriousJoy.com.
Saturn retrogrades and prepares to zigzag. The anniversary of 9/11 will astrologically last a full month this year. And for the first time in history, the Virgos have nothing to complain about. Taping live at Sensei Studios in Palm Springs, California. Keep streaming for Namaste Today with soul horoscopes of the Zodiac weather. Greetings and blessings to you, my friends, galactic family, and earthbound neighbors. Welcome to Namaste Today with soul horoscopes and your zodiac weather. I'm your host, Christopher Witecki, the sensei to Serious Joy, also the founder of the Step Astrology System, and the acting sensei now at SeriousJoy.com. Now, consider me your cosmic friend, a comedian really, here to help you laugh along the way as we humans now begin to fumble our way to enlightenment. And as a reminder, please be kind and do subscribe. Hit the bell button so you're notified. And if you don't mind, please leave a comment wherever you happen to be so the algorithm will be nice to us into the future. Now, we're moving forward this week. It's now time to move into the Virgo season. We've got some interesting planets and trends information, and it all really begins with the theme of the month. The month is called The Becoming of the Evolved Self. We have been working for a long time now to evolve ourselves. In fact, we're calling it a re-evolution. We'll have that in our sun sign stories. Re-evolution meaning we've already evolved one time, but now that we are awake, we're going to decide to consciously evolve again. Thank God us for that. At least we had the audacity to try, right? And this has to do with all the trends that have been going on, but it really goes back to when Pisces was a big hit phenomenon, when Neptune moved into Pisces in 2012. You might have known it as the Mayan shift, when the Mayan calendar ended. And remember, Mayan said, this is it, this is the end of the world. Well, it was more of the end of the world as we knew it. Since 2012, Neptune and Pisces has been helping us to evolve and come out of our dormant sleep. We were sleeping. We were at the wheel, so to speak, of our existence. And Neptune and Pisces made us aware of our bad habits and our patterns and our karma and our trauma. And then just 2 years ago, about 2.5 years ago, Saturn entered into Pisces, and then we began to take responsibility for cutting that karma. So in this particular Virgo season, it's very unique. One that I've never seen before in my life, frankly, as an astrologer, almost 20 years here now on camera. And that is that we have a complete dissection of Virgo, the removal of the old Virgo consciousness and the insertion of a new Virgo consciousness. Now, what the hell does that mean? Virgo consciousness really is the hard drive, if you will. It's the that we run our software on, our spiritual software. Virgo is the I become state of awareness. It is the body. It's the physical earth. It's nutrition. It's our aura. It's our chakras. Everything that we know is physical. It's the 12th state of awareness, although we call it step 11 at Serious Joy, because it's the final step where you become what you have been on the inside. What you be is what comes, and you become your energy and flesh. Now, what makes this year very unique and worth pointing out is that this year we have a very interesting lunar cycle. We have a new moon at step 0 Virgo, which happened this last week. We have a full moon eclipse at 15 degrees Pisces and the sun at 15 degrees Virgo. And then we have another new moon at 29 degrees Virgo. That's literally a lunar event at 0, 15, and 29. That's a precise cut of that consciousness. And I believe that we're installing a new consciousness in its place. We're new hardware, if you will, a new biology. I've been talking to other people who are theorists, and they've been talking about this may be when we have a DNA upgrade, or when we have dormant DNA suddenly become activated and suddenly become X-Men or something like that. But what it means on a level of our story is that this is the time of Virgo where we're going to now become something else. We're now in time ready to evolve. We're talking about this also in our sun sign stories, that is a new generation that is brewing and moving forward. And it's this month that this all happens. Now, that said, given that context, if we are getting new hardware, I would say that new moon last week was a new hardware. That 0 degree was ground zero. We got some new technology. We got some more RAM. We got some upgrades, new Bluetooth technology, so to speak, which is our telepathic information. And this week, now that we've got that hardware, it is time to install the new operating system. So this week in Virgo, you'll be learning to act, behave, and live differently. And not only will you be installing it, but you'll be optimizing the system. And really the key question that we're going to have all week is how you tell the difference between the two systems. I'll give you some hints on that. But in essence, for the math of this and for the step astrology of this, the arc of the week is from step 7 Virgo, and we go all the way to step 12 Virgo. Now, in the steps, 7 is the end of the first chapter. So between 7 and 10, which is basically between Saturday and Tuesday, we'll be coming to a full completion of our hardware. That means that your body may go through some adjustments. You may have some physical breakdowns. I already know a few people, as I predicted, having different situations with their health, people's health breaking down. That's because the old body system that was holding the weight of trauma and holding the weight of your drama suddenly couldn't take it anymore. You had to do a release. A lot of people have flu and have things that like make you release all the water in your system because a lot of memories and traumas are stored in the water and stored in fat molecules. So you might have to, God forbid, you might have to get rid of some of that fat. And then also, people are coming into shape. I've noticed people telling me they're going to the gym, they're going back to yoga, they're ready to reset their bodies. So this is good. This is exactly what we want to have happen. Once we get that installed, which is going to be probably on Tuesday or Wednesday, you should be feeling kind of a new person. In fact, step 11 Virgo is on Wednesday, and 11 is when we are technically complete with our inner physical, biological changes, right? And this may just mean you're getting healthy or you're getting more sleep or you're like changing diets. From that point on, we begin to operate differently. You see, Virgo is the consciousness of how we operate. In a classic astrology natal reading, Virgo is what you do all day. It's what your routines are. It's what your occupation is. If you're a performer or an athlete, it talks about that. It's your capacity to heal. It's your capacity to change. It's your capacity really to store the past and store history. It's the organization skills that we have, as we know for Virgos to always have. So you'll be like reorganizing your life or beginning to reorganize your life this week, which will be a big part of what we're doing. Now, when it comes to the emotions of the week, it's going to be somewhat of a decisive week in that sense. We start the moon in Scorpio, and that's starting as of tonight and tomorrow. So we're drawing that line between the old world and the new world emotionally over the weekend. And that means we're just going to turn our back on what has been, and we're turn our hearts to the future. Then the moon goes into Sagittarius, basically on Saturday night, Sunday, and Monday. And when it happens in that regard, we're going to really tell ourselves a new story. Where it's like, I'm not this anymore. I'm not going to let my life be that anymore. I'm not going to deal with these kind of people. And that's been a big part of the theme as well, I have to say, is people are sick of people. And that's because we're about to do a big tribal change. We'll be talking about that. But that eclipse that happens at 15 degrees really is kind of the last straw for many relationships where people go, I don't want to have this kind of theme in my life. I don't want to be codependent. I don't want to be, hanging out with narcissists, that buzzword of our century. And so we also do relationship changes. And in the astrological world, we now have every planet retrograding. In fact, what's going to happen this week is Saturn will retrograde once again. And once this happens, we now move forward. Well, actually, it's all moving backward. Everything's moving backwards at this point. And the Uranus is what actually goes backwards. Saturn already was. It's going to dip into Pisces. That's its headline. But everything's now scooping backwards. And it means that as we move forward, we sort of peel back and re-examine what we've been doing the last 6 months. Take it kind of one last try and one last look. And then, of course, as the new year progresses here in 2026, we go forward with this new life. Otherwise, as far as the planets are concerned, it's not a big bumpy week. I don't think there's going to be any big surprises, which is good. It's kind of an average week. It's a mundane week. And because of that, I think things are going to be able to be reorganized. So it's almost like we've had a hustle and a bustle. And now that we're here in Virgo, we're really ready to kind of get ready, get organized, and move forward with this new life and this new way of being. And that's really what it comes down to. It comes down to a new way of being. How do you want to be every day in your life? How do you want life to actually become? Are you here to work, or do you work to live? These are the questions that happens during Virgo. Not only that, but the Virgo consciousness itself is a lot more intelligent because it was spending all of its time and energy getting rid of problems, healing, reorganizing, solving things. And certainly there's things to solve and certain things to clean up. But we have actually, as a species, really begun to face a lot of our problems. I was talking to our members of our studio prior to this show, and we're talking about how in the old days you didn't talk about your problems. Now everybody does. Everyone does it on social media. People share it, and people don't have things linger as much. So it really is kind of a new world, and Virgo is going to be this transition. The hardest part of this week is going to be kind of differentiating between the new world and the old world, and I think I can put it quite simply, frankly. In the old world, there was something always wrong. It was always something where we were trying to fix something. We were facing something we didn't want to face. We had little faith. We assumed things, we actually assumed things could go wrong. They could fail. And I think part of the new operating system is we know life will continue. We know there will be no lingering problems. We know if we face our problems, they can be healed, and we know that the answer is out there somewhere. You could say that the old world lacked faith and the new world has faith. You could also say that the old world was generally pessimistic, and I would say that the new world is at least neutral in that sense. That doesn't mean things aren't going to happen and change, and have problems that we are challenged with, but it just means that the overall crisis energy, I think, is going down. Even though there's a lot of TV that pushes for crisis energy, most human beings I talk to really don't feel that way. They actually want things to calm down and be settled. So it's going to be interesting. I think that through the week, as you move through your own life, you're going to find that there are things that come up that just don't have any more zest to them anymore. There's just no more there. And that could even be the things that people are addicted to. They just aren't really feeling anymore. They're not tasting anymore. They don't want it anymore. And they might become extremely bored with it. In fact, I think boredom is a good sign in this particular week, because that means that the old is finally over and the new is about to happen. But the exciting thing will be this eclipse coming up next week. We'll talk about it, because you might find some relationships starting to wear on you. And you might find yourself just tired of dealing with certain people and certain ways of doing things. And that is to be expected, because we're going to do a big cast change here in the sign of Libra. And we're probably going to realize that we want to do the cast change in this eclipse coming up, this full moon in Pisces. So, if there's something you want to say to people and you haven't said it, the universe is saying you best do that now, because things will change and people will be surprised when it does. All right, we're going to now look at our zodiac weather here and have a little commercial. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the sun signs and the headlines. Keep streaming. Today's zodiac weather spans from Saturday, August 30th to Friday, September 5th, 2025, and is sponsored by ADintuitive, spiritual advertising and marketing with material results. Are you a practitioner or conscious business owner looking to expand your reach? Inquire about commercial spots on our top 3 shows on Sirius Joy TV and get your message out to the world. Interested about details and pricing? Then email Jenny at adintuitive.com. Moving onward now to the weekend forecast. Over the weekend, we'll hit steps 7 and 8 of the I Become consciousness, coming to a decision about who you have become and who you have not. Let's drill down. On Saturday, it's sunny and forgiving. Step 7 indicates that Neptune rules the day. This will be a spiritual, quiet, introverted day, probably little moments with yourself and realizations about your soul story. The moon begins in Scorpio, so you'll be very sharp at the start of the day, drawing the line emotionally between forgiveness and surrender. But then the moon moves into Sagittarius, where you'll begin to rewrite your story you tell yourself using your feelings as your guide. This is the day to let the past go, to forgive yourself and pardon yourself for all mistakes with yourself. You cannot hold on to judgment and create a new version of yourself. The root intention of the day is I become peace, and the affirmation, I am surrendering the past to the great idea. On Sunday, it's sunny and decisive. Step 8 rules the day, which indicates Capricorn has come out, giving you a strength and authority over your life. You are deciding what you are not, so you can decide what you will become. The moon in Sagittarius allows you to emotionally update your story with others, characters, and also your plots on the earth. And with Saturn ruling the day, you're feeling decisive, you're in your authority, and you're ready to make those hard decisions. That energy apexes in the afternoon, however, at 3:44 p.m. when Mercury and Leo will trine Chiron retrograde at step 26 Aries. This means that not only have you made decisions about who you're becoming, but you're also making decisions about the character you'll become also. The root intention of the day is I become innocent. And the affirmation of the day is I am not guilty, my judgment is overturned. Moving ahead now to take a sneak peek at the upcoming week. As we look at the week from the arc of Monday till Friday, we move from steps 9 all the way to step 13. That means you'll take the crucial steps to become who you're meant to become, and by the end of the week, you'll be innovating your lifestyle. Let's take a look at Monday. On Monday, it's sunny and empowering. Step 9 indicates that Mars rules the day. This is your ego pushing now to become the person you seek to become. Now, the day is filled with a lot more splendor because overnight, Saturn has retrograded in Pisces at about 4:06 a.m., so you're feeling a lot of pressure off your shoulders as you take that first step. The moon begins in Sagittarius and crosses the galactic center, meaning that your feelings are now going to update the collective consciousness about your intentions, and then the moon moves into Capricorn later in the day where you'll feel quite serious. The root intention is I become activated, and the affirmation is I have faith in myself, resolved. On Tuesday, it's going to be sunny and installing. Step 10 means that Earth rules the day. So Earth is in pure form. That means it's time to love and protect everything that's coming into materialization. The moon is in Capricorn, so your feelings are bouncing off of different decisions you have to make and becoming responsible about the future. Early in the morning, Mercury will ingress into Virgo, shifting thoughts to be much more serious and focused on the little details. The root intention of the day is I become optimized, and the affirmation is new reality starts on the old set. On Wednesday, it's partly cloudy and fussy. Step 11 indicates it's a Grandmaster day of Virgo. Step 11 is ruled by Chiron. So the world is both critical and at the same time attempting to perform. The moon in Capricorn doesn't quite help. It makes things a bit serious, perhaps a little bit too judgmental. Be careful of that. In the afternoon, Jupiter in Cancer will trine the North Node at 18 Pisces, pushing for now things to move ahead emotionally and also spiritually. The root intention is I become turned, and the affirmation is I am taking the side of my heart. On Thursday, it's partly sunny and lifting. Step 12 indicates that Jupiter rules the day. It'll be a day of optimism and hope and things changing in a good way. The moon begins in Capricorn, a little serious, but then shifts to Aquarius where we're able to detach. Basically, you're now moving forward in an energetic way and trying new things. This is a day where you're just going to explore, study, learn, and get new information. The root intention is I become educated, and the affirmation is discovering new features about my reality. Then that evening, around 10:58 p.m. Eastern Time, Mars in Libra will square Jupiter at 18 degrees Cancer, leaving you to reconcile your ego's willpower with your emotional knowing. Which one will be the most accurate? Most likely what your feelings are telling you. And then on Friday, it's sunny and observant. Step 13 indicates that Uranus rules the day. Expect minor breakdowns followed by breakthroughs in your daily life, relationships, and situations that you have going. The moon is in Aquarius, complementing that 13 degrees, allowing you to emotionally detach from whatever's happening. This is an elevation. You realize that the life you were once living is not suitable for who you become, and therefore something must go and something must go higher. Energetically, you're realizing that if you follow your heart and your beliefs, you'll be led to the destination. But it takes courage and it takes faith. The intention of the day is I become upgraded. And the affirmation is I am sorting through the changes and cleaning up the system. And now it's time for the sun signs and the headlines. And this week we're talking with our lead story, Generation Pluto. You know, Generation X is rumored to be moving into power soon. Each generation will assume power by a certain age and their qualifications for certain jobs, such as president, etc. And Generation X has always had a weird reputation, Generation X. And it makes you think, where do these generations come from? Well, of course, they come from society, labeling them based on children and parents. But astrologically, there's something we call Generation Pluto. In fact, what Pluto sign is in kind of marks a generation. It is a long span of 10 to 14 years of people and births, and they all carry this one thing in common, where Pluto was when they were born. And so we have each of them sort of laid out going all the way back for this full century. We thought we'd do a little layout with you, leading out talking to or Generation X and who's taking power next. Now, first of all, let's go way back. I'm talking way, way back. We're talking when we had the roaring 20s, where things were just doing phenomenally, and technology was making things like fans and refrigerators, huge things where your food wouldn't rot in your own kitchen, and of course, the stock market, and the ability to trade stocks electronically and things like that. This generation is known as the greatest generation. And the greatest generation had one thing in common. They had Pluto and Gemini. That is, they were changing the way they think. And that was the big thing about it. They were forced to think differently. What Pluto does is put boundaries in spaces where generations don't have any boundaries. And you could almost think that when Pluto's in a generation, that generation is almost numb or completely idiotic coming in from a reincarnation. So in other words, the Pluto-Gemini generation was probably the first generation to all read or read efficiently or use words in a good way. Like this was a generation where newspapers became gigantic, right? They were always there, printing presses, but now we had national newspapers. We had, of course, radio starting to come out at that point. And we also had things like this, you know, the stock market ticker. So electricity, Gemini, Pluto and Gemini, they were the greatest generation ever. But it didn't stay great for very long because after the greatest generation came the silent generation, known as Pluto in Cancer. And maybe they were silent because this generation had no idea on how to handle their emotions. They did not know how to feel and how to do anything. This is my grandma and grandpa, frankly. And this Pluto in Cancer generation dealt with a hell of a lot of things that I don't even know how I would deal with. They had to deal with the depression when they grew up. So that was a lot to deal with, not having food, not knowing whether or not you're going to have enough on your plate to live. And they had to deal with, of course, World War II. After nearly starving to death, they were sent to their death, basically, in death camps in Europe. And of course, parachuting out of planes from Americans and other allied troops, and really going to places of huge danger where there was, even at the end of this Pluto Cancer generation, a nuclear bomb drop. So this was a huge generation that did not understand emotion, and they had to deal with probably the most emotional and traumatic things of the entire century. Pretty difficult. So the Pluto Cancer generation comes home, and they all have 2.5 children. And those 2.5 children are known as the baby boomers. The baby boomers were Pluto in Leo generation. This generation actually had a hard time listening to their heart. And they were known to be the spoiled generation. They got everything they wanted. They had all this wealth and availability of materials and things like that. And they spoiled their children, and they also wanted to be spoiled themselves. And the Pluto Leo generation, basically did not respect their former generations. Their heart wanted to come first. It was like peace, love, and not war. That's a total Pluto Leo situation. They were learning to have boundaries to protect their heart. And later, when they grew up, they got married, and 1 out of 2 of them got divorced. So Pluto and Leo generation really have had a lot of heartbreaks. These are the baby boomers, and this is the oldest generation on the earth right now. They're basically moving into now our formidable class. They're going to be they're our elders, basically. Pluto Leo now moves to become our elders. Then the elders all have children. They have like 2 or 3 children themselves, and this is known as Gen X. Gen X has 2 Plutos, actually, Pluto in Virgo and also Pluto in Libra. They're a very big generation. Why? Well, because the baby boomers were very big, and they all had lots of kids, and then the kids had lots of kids. So ultimately, the Gen X is the one coming into power now. And what Gen X has in common is that they're here to fix things. These are the fixers, myself included. I'm a Pluto Libran, so I'm here to fix relationships. Whereas the Pluto Virgos in Gen X were here to fix the body and health. So is Pluto Gen X actually that gets the reputation of being nothing X, but it's our, Gen Xer Elon Musk who's brought the word X back, right, with X.com and whatnot. Is that interesting? A big Gen Xer. So I actually argue that Gen X is going to do the most for the world because that X, I always say, we're holding up our parents and we're holding up our children at the same time. We're holding it all up, and we're getting a Generation X label. But Gen X will not be coming onto the scene. After Gen X, of course, we have a very famous one. These are the millennials, all right? And that's Generation Y. And they have Pluto and Scorpio. The thing about Pluto and Scorpio is these are a generation that has never drawn a boundary before. Pluto and Scorpions, or millennials, come from being slaves in past lives and being completely controlled by others, which is why they refuse to be controlled in this lifetime. They don't want to draw the line. They don't want to allow people to do things. And so they're going to walk away doing it their way. Now, I think that it's going to ultimately be in this re-evolution that the millennials will actually be the soldiers, so to speak, is what I'm trying to say, whereas Gen X will probably be the leaders. So you're going to see Gen Xers probably taking leadership next, and you're going to see the millennials moving forward and actually drawing the lines, probably doing the picket lines, probably going on strike, that sort of thing. But then after that, of course, we have Generation Z. And Generation Z is people who have Pluto in Sagittarius. Pluto in Sagittarius is a generation that has been forced to believe what other people wanted them to believe in past lives. They've never had freedom of religion. They've never had freedom of their ability to think. They were always sort of brainwashed, and they were put into lifetimes where they were told what to think, and they were not allowed to be independent in their thinking. So the Pluto and Sagittarius generation is basically refusing to believe in anything, all right? And these are the ones who identify with all these different new terms and ways of believing. They're completely on technology. They did not go to school very much as far as like we did, Gen Xers. They had a lot of electronic teaching and classes. They had a lot of multiple choices. And so ironically, Pluto and Sagittarius generation did not have a lot of concentrated education, but they also are probably the first generation to have artificial intelligence really be a big part of their lives. So ironically, they have the freedom to believe what they want to believe, but they're not going to go out and be educated about it. They're going to go to AI and have AI figure it out for them. And then finally, we have the Pluto and Capricorn generation, which is now kids right now being born. And that, of course, is Generation Alpha. These are babies that are going to have some major control issues. They're going to refuse to be controlled in any way, shape, or form. And these are going to be the children that probably end up taking over the world and hopefully making it a peaceful place. I guess it all depends on what we're going to do with them. All right. Now, with that said, you're probably wondering what's going on with your life. Coming up next, we have the Soul Horoscopes, so keep streaming.
Aloha! I'm Mary, and I'm inviting you to experience the mystical world of the tarot with me. As a tree-hugging dirt worshiper, a retired wildlife biologist, and a sprite of the forest, my readings take you into the realms of elemental creativity to unearth a deeper awareness for those big decisions that you have in life. The first 50 viewers to email me with the coupon code below and book a reading will receive 50% off that reading. I can't wait to see what the cards have in store for you. Mahalo nui loa.
Hello, I'm Sanandra, founder of Sichi Organics. We are celebrating our 30th year anniversary as a small business with simple, clean, organic skin and hair care made with love. To celebrate our 30-year anniversary, enter code word JOY30 at checkout and you'll receive 30% off any individual Sichi skin and hair care product.
Happy anniversary, CG!
Are you looking for inspiration to grow your conscious business? Serious Joy's Board of Light is a sacred alliance of lightworkers, visionaries, and spiritual leaders dedicated to awakening conscious leadership. As a member, you'll receive professional support in the forms of bi-monthly Congress of Light meetings, exclusive community networking, and an array of guest speaker webinars each month to guide you on your personal dreams. First quarter guest highlights include consciousness architect Lisa M. Brazelton, Dharma coaching expert Sahara Rose, and Chiron specialist Karen Croney. Don't miss this profound lineup of wisdom. Join now for only $250 per year and be a part of the enlightened professional re-evolution. What are you waiting for?
And now it's time for your favorite part of the show, Soul Horoscopes, which goes back the full millennia of what I've been on the air for, 19 years now, doing Soul Horoscopes every week. And we're going to talk about, for each of the 12 signs this particular week, where you are re-engineering your life. That's the Sun of Virgo. I want to talk about where you're reconstructing maybe your methodology, where you're putting in new logic, and I'll also talk about where the Earth in Pisces is for you, which is where you're going to surrender to have faith. In fact, you have to have faith in order to control and change your reality. Put one foot in the faith and the other foot into making changes. I'll also talk about Saturn now moving back into Pisces and what that means. You'll be doing some reorganizing in Pisces, taking another look at your karma, maybe looking at it from new, fresh eyes that you've been through things. And then, of course, we have this week, Jupiter will be trining the North Node in Pisces. So we'll talk about how Jupiter in Cancer is going to be helping you with that Pisces issue. Now, I know it sounds crazy, so just follow along. And as always, let's start with the Aries. Aries, you are literally reorganizing your life right now. And I think for a lot of reasons, Aries used to be, the ones who did the hard labor, the ones that would push really hard and end up, I think spending a lot of your life, healing and resting because you push so hard. Aries now in the AI world is actually taking a bit easier. They're getting jobs now that are based on intellect. They're getting jobs now that are based on exploration. And so you are going to bring to your life a new calm. Now, I think this new calm is a steady calm, in the sense that you are not interested in high highs and low lows, but rather cruise control. I think the new Aries wants to be cruising on the road, really chill. Now, for this to happen, because you're so embedded in the old world where everyone relied on you to do all the hard labor, you're going to have a lot of faith that it's going to be all right. And you might even have to swap out your God service providers with that eclipse coming up, because that's going to be a new relationship to faith that you end up building on and moving forward with. So be willing to just kind of go with the flow. If you don't feel something wrong, then don't throw the panic button, and realize that many of the details of your daily life need to go. You're a little bit overpacked. I think Aries can just pack on too much, which is why they tend to start over now and then and just completely want to reboot. And that's okay. It's because you had put too much on in the first place. Now, as I mentioned, Saturn is going back into Pisces. This means that you're going to probably have another look at what this God Kai is anyways, your perspective on spirit and reincarnation. And I think for some, it means that you're going to realize you have a dream that's much deeper than what you've been focusing on. One thing good about Aries is they'll pay attention to the details and get the job done. The negative part of being Aries is that you don't always see the biggest picture, the why. Why am I here? What's my purpose? That sort of thing. So if this Saturn zigzag back into Pisces, I think you're going to realize that you have a greater purpose here than you had once thought. And so in that retrograde, you're probably going to make some new spiritual commitments. You might even make commitments to, join a spirituality group or begin meditation or begin the ascension process. I've often said that, Aries will probably be the ones bold enough to, try something out like Egyptian technology to see if you can beam yourself to Orion, things like that. And so I think you're going to be starting to reinvent faith in new ways. And it might be because you're changing your life so much, you have to have the faith in order to survive. Now, I had mentioned this earlier. Jupiter in Cancer is chugging along, doing very well, expanding your emotional foundation. What you're finding is you've got to treat yourself better and your emotions better in order to have this happen. And so this week, when Jupiter trines that North Node in Pisces, it means it's time to coordinate two things: how you feel with your faith. You're going to realize that if you feel really well, then you're going to have great faith. And you're going to find out that if you don't have good emotions, you're not well cared for, you're not well slept, not having eaten well, you're not going to have very good faith. And I think this is a biggie because Aries tend to only take care of themselves when something goes wrong. I think the new age Aries is one that's to take care of themselves all day long. And this will prepare for the next transit with Jupiter, which will be in the house of love and creativity. So we might even have Aries preparing to be artists. We'll have more on that in the future. Taurus, I'm excited for us. The month of Virgo for you has to do with you following your personal dreams. And if you didn't know, you are very meticulous and detailed about your personal dreams, but the details and the direction you've gone so far, you've come to a level now where you're no longer excited. So I think Tauruses are looking for a new, something that's exciting, new details that will make it different. And so you're basically kind of transforming your art room right now, getting new Crayolas for your school, getting new things that you can play with, expanding your art in new ways. Now, for this to happen, for you to expand your creativity in your art, it means you're going to have to accept that your place in society is changing. You're not the old Taurus you used to be. Taurus, I think, used to be the old reliable, always there, always the one that people can lean on, that sort of thing. And if you're going to go into your heart and you're going to go into creativity, you're going to have to withdraw from some of those things that you have promised to do. And so this means that you might have to let people down in order to let you have a break. You might have to tell people, I'm sorry, you can't be there for you after years and years because you and your heart wants to do something you want. Now, I do think that this means that you have to face any sort of inner child issue, have any guilt about owing society or not. Like some of these issues have to be cleaned up and dried up. But I feel like this week you're going to realize that life has a greater purpose than just being of service. I think you're going to realize that life has also the purpose of being of service to your own heart. So, Tauruses are ready to do this and will do it in fine detail if you're willing to pull away. Now, what's the catcher? The catcher is that Jupiter in Cancer. See, Jupiter in Cancer is helping you expand how you feel about things. And the reason why you get stuck in situations where you end up giving everything to the people and not giving to yourself, and then when you do give it to yourself, you overindulge, you go too far, is because of the way you handle your thoughts. Jupiter in Cancer says Tauruses have got to not allow their emotions to stir their thinking or blur their thinking. And so when Jupiter at 15 ends up trining, Jupiter at 18 ends up 18 Cancer ends up trining the North Node at 18 Pisces, it means that you're going to have to realize that in order to do something different in the world, you're going to have to stop guilting yourself. You have to stop, thinking about things that upset you emotionally. You have to stop getting involved in things that make you emotional in society. So in essence, Tauruses want to have fun. They want to be creative, but because their mind is too emotional at times, and it doesn't have the right boundaries, or they have the negative thoughts going on with negative feelings, they end up putting themselves out in the world where they're giving more than they are receiving. So I think for Tauruses, it's about coming into your heart, giving your child equal time, and watching your thoughts so they're not so emotional and they're not guilting you down the wrong path. Cancers, you are making some major changes when it comes to your thinking and your processing. You're going to reorganize your thoughts, and you think too much, frankly. It's, I think, some sort of a mechanism to get through your feelings and avoid your feelings. And as a result, you have got too much data that got to be cleared out. And the only way that's going to happen is if you have faith in what you believe in. You don't have to explain everything if you really believe. You don't have to teach us if you really believe. And if you really believe that you don't have to go through all the details over and over again, which basically restigmatizes your emotions and recharges up your flare. So Cancers are learning how to think differently, to let things go, to not be so detail-oriented and about the things that don't matter, and instead focus on the things that really do matter. By the way, Jupiter's in your sign. That means that you are learning how to change your behavior. And when Jupiter trines the North Node at 18 degrees Pisces, it means it's now time for you to really point your behavior and practice what you preach. It's time to walk your talk. It's time to actually put into motion everything that you believe so it's undeniable. So you don't have to sit there and think and replay conversations you have with someone. I know a lot of Cancers, a lot of them. I'm born to one. My mom's a Cancer. And I see you guys. I hear you guys. I'm the one that listens where you will go word by word, verbatim of what that person said, and that person said, that person said, getting yourself all riled up again, especially over certain details. He called me on this or this or that. And honestly, that is just not working anymore. It's now time to think lighter and to use your brilliance for memorizing details for all the details that you want about things you're doing in life, not details about people done to you. So I think coming out of the old Pluto Capricorn, you realize that you're not a victim. You realize that you're just too caring. You give too much. In that sense, it's time to kind of follow that for yourself. It's time for you to be, more clear on what you need and sharper on what you need personally, instead of trying to be everything all at once, is I think what it is. I think Cancer sometimes will overwork. You have some tremendous energy because you come from the sea and you're part of our survival. And so I think a lot of times Cancers will overthink, overwork, overpush, overpromise. And then you feel extremely worn out and you feel taken advantage of. When in some cases you are taken advantage of, but in other cases, they're just taking advantage of how soft you are, right? Like there's just someone near them that feels good. One thing I think I want to point out as well is that you are going to be now moving towards, I think, a different personality. I think Cancer's always gone to the table and gone, what can I do for you? I think now Cancers need to sit back and see what they can do for you. See why you've attracted certain people, what you may need help with. Because I've heard a lot of Cancers going, I need help and no one offers. And I think it's because you are offering everyone else. So part of your thinking has to be to keep it simple. to not over-explain, to not over-ask, and to have faith that and believe in yourself so that you attract people who have similar belief structures, all right? When Saturn dips back into Pisces for you, it means that you're going to now have a new purpose as far as where you think life is going. You're going to reanalyze that purpose one more time. And you may think you had it down, but I think this is going to be a last-minute edit that really surprised Cancers in a lot of ways, that you realize that what you want is a lot more personal. I think you were trying to go for things that was universal, was worldly. Your purpose was to help the world or do this for the world. Well, the new Cancer doesn't have to do anything for the world. It can be just for you. You don't have to care for anyone. You have to nurse anyone or breastfeed anyone. It's just like you just do what you want to do and what you believe in. I've seen a lot of Cancers actually take a Capricorn route lately where they're going to be more professional, meaning they're going to be in the business world, or they're going to be more political, or they're going to be more money-based. So we're kind of seeing interesting things with Cancers. The cool thing about that is because you're going into a different workforce, you're bringing care consciousness into a different place on Earth. So you're kind of doing the same job. You're just now doing it with a different approach. Here's the good news, though. I do think that you're going to find yourself seeing everything you believe come true. And so if you stay tight with all this Pisces energy, Cancers are the one people that I always thought that they did know and they did sense what their purpose was. They were in touch with it and they're on point with it. And even now, I think it's somewhat similar, but I just think it's going to be something that pleases you and doesn't necessarily please the world. So channel that character and all that behavior into getting your dreams coming true and following what matters to you first. That's what's important, Cancer. You come first. Geminis, you are reaching a new normal here in Virgo, a new reality when it comes to how you live at home. In fact, the big thing for you is emotions. Geminis have tended to be a bit emotional, but they are emotional on a high resolution scale. You, like a Virgo, have these little details that upset you, and you tend to focus on those details and give them too much attention, and then you don't give enough attention to the other parts of yourself that need attention. And as a result, your future is what ends up failing or having to pay the price. So for you, you are now reorganizing your home life, your family life. Literally, the drawers, in your closet, maybe sock drawers now moved around, that sort of thing. And also how you respond to your own feelings. Geminis can have a tendency to kind of go victim when it comes to feelings, just by default. And that's partly that their mind is more clear on that program. You haven't been well programmed on how to be happy, but you can run a really good sad program easily because it's been so common, right? So this week, you're going to level out your emotions. You're going to find a more detailed and high resolution care life. So caring for yourself at a higher and greater resolution. And what it means on that sense, you're going to have faith in your future. You have to let your future go, not worry about it so much, not allow it to burden you, and not let yourself feel judged by your career or judged by the people in your job. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to come home and have a nice emotional foundation. Now, Jupiter in Cancer for you is interesting because this has to do with money. And see, you've let money and your feelings about money really push you into careers that you don't want. I can't tell you how many Geminis I know are doing something they don't like at all, but they're in it for the money. And of course, we're all in it for the money, but I think sometimes Geminis only looked at that. You kind of looked at work as always hard, always difficult, and always in it for the money. So this trine with Jupiter going to the North Node in Pisces means that when you when you feel good, excuse me, Gemini, when you feel really good about what you're worth, you will not accept certain things in your career. And when you don't accept certain things in your career, you'll have faith that everything will be all right. And when you have faith that everything will be all right, you actually feel better at home and you feel more relaxed. So you're sort of healing this week and coming to a new rest. The balance between feeling good all the time, being on the right career path, and at the same time, making the money you deserve. By the way, if you're not making money yet, you will be soon. Jupiter's in your second house, which means that you are expanding your potential for revenue in general. This is a good time to try a side business, a good time to try another way of making revenue, or open up a super savings account, because with Jupiter in that space, you're going to be led to the right banker or the right investment, both. Leos, you are working on abundance right now. That is where Virgo is for you. Virgo conscious is how you make money, all the details that go into making money. And for Leos, this has been a hot and cold thing, like the stock market. Very, very detail oriented. Some things people loved and you did well on. Some things people didn't like, you didn't do well on at all. Or you did well in one job and not in the other. And so the conscious of Virgo for you is very messy in the sense of money has been all over the map. I wouldn't say necessarily for you, it's been a constant, something you can constantly rely on. Sure, you always do end up making the check, but I don't think you always can count on it inside of yourself. And part of this has to do with the opposite of Virgo, which is your Pisces boundaries. Your boundaries of where you draw the line have been very sloppy, mostly because you're very sensitive and you can feel when you've upset people and you can feel when people have upset you. So you've sort of kind of either been a big boundary person or a no boundary person. And that's the part that's healing now. Now it's going to be a boundary with other people that the eclipse actually knocks out at step 15. So you're going to realize that the core belief about why you're with somebody is going to change, and the core rules around who you let in is also going to change. What's also adding to this is your place in society, because you, as is your faith, your personal faith. Because with Jupiter in Cancer, you've been expanding your faith at large, and by expanding your faith, you've been able to move forward with these new directions, especially changing boundaries and especially working on making more money. You can go ahead and try that daring thing if you feel good and have faith. You can go ahead and make that investment in something that's never been done before if you feel good and have faith. And at the same time, you're not going to be haunted anymore by your emotions or subconscious. A lot of Leos I know have had anxiety issues sleeping at night, all sort of disorders like that. Not because you really had a problem per se, like medically, but because you had so many things and emotions that you were just keeping up in your 12th house. You have Cancer in the 12th. So things were literally haunting you. But I think now that Jupiter is almost at its halfway point, when it trines Pisces and it trines the North Node in Pisces, North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo, it's going to help you to be guided really to a new boundary, a boundary that's based on the path of least resistance and a boundary that's based on fairness. And when that happens, I don't think there'll be a buildup of emotion, and I think the Leos will be feeling quite valuable as a result. Virgos! Virgos. I argue, and I said this at the beginning of the show, that you're never going to be the same again. I think you are done being worried, and I think you are done complaining. Seriously. Now, not complaining about me or certain people, but for the most part, Virgos have always been heavy, judgmental, and critical on themselves first and foremost, and on others as well. And a lot of this had to do with what we're talking about today. You see, with the new Virgo energy, you're changing how you behave. And how you behave means some things are appropriate and some things aren't. And at the same time, you're coming into your best behavior. I know Virgo's coming into their shine right now. I know Virgo rising is doing exceptionally well. In fact, Virgo is the number one rising at Serious Joy for all of our associates, by the way, and contractors. We have more Virgo risings than any rising than any others. So it's how we get things done, right? But the problem has been that your relationships in the background have basically helped you to feel worthless or feel kind of doomed. And so you had a lot of karma to work out when it came to Pisces. You had a lot of karma to work out when it came to relationships when you were born this lifetime. And so as a result, you've been through a lot. It's been difficult. But now I believe with this turn of events in this new world, you are going to be a strong Pisces that doesn't have anything negative to say. A strong Virgo that doesn't have anything negative to say. And that's mostly because the Pisces energy on the other side with the North Node is teaching you to be forgiving, to let it go, to be compassionate to yourself and compassionate to others. You are just letting it go. That's why you're a bit more happy. Now, the Jupiter in Cancer, I think, is helping a lot as well, because Jupiter in Cancer for you is actually giving you a lot of opportunity with career and also your place in society and what you do in society. I think Virgos are finding a new place. For one, you're coming to the table a lot happier and you're not having a lot of problems yourself. And so you're not so much of a heavy bummer as you had been sometimes. As a result, you're not pointing out other people's mistakes without them asking. And I think this is positioning you into a nice, cozy place in the world. I think I see people getting really used to you around and wanting you around much more because you're so nurturing and caring that you've dealt with all this karma. So I think the New Age Virgo is in a great place because you're going to reinvent yourself with ego. You're going to have different changes in your relationships. And finally, I think you're going to find your tribe. Libras. Oh, Libras, I'm excited for you. I've been talking about you a lot with other astrologers because you are about to make some profound changes in your life that I've been waiting for my whole life to see. And it really has to do with the Virgo consciousness and your faith. You are an excellent analyzer of information. You're different than Geminis. Geminis have the right fact at the right time. You compare facts. You actually, compare and contrast, find the middle ground, really rationalize things and come to a fair agreement. So you will throw yourself under the bus as much as you will another person. And for that reason, you're actually much more fair, right? So in this Virgo consciousness, I think you're going to be saying to yourself, you know what? I don't have to do all these things to have faith in myself anymore. I only have to do these 3 things or these 4 things. And so I think you were giving yourself a bigger task duty list from God conscious than you had to. And so this new Virgo conscious for you is much lighter. I think it's much more precise too. I think Libra's going to be able to tune directly into the past life people they want to, or their ascended masters and things like that. So Libra's about to get a lot more psychic, which is not something we had seen very much of before. Now, the other aspect that's interesting with this is the fact that as you move forward with this, we have, of course, the Earth in Pisces. And the Earth in Pisces says for you, hey, if you're going to be transforming, energetically your faith, that means that you have to have faith in your moment, that you have to have faith in your life, you have to have faith in your health. So for you to have greater faith in the big picture of things, you got to really not sweat the small stuff. And so the universe is calling for you to be forgiving, to not freak out when something goes out of balance, in the moment, and to also be nicer to your body, to be more forgiving and put it through less stress. Now, when we do have that moment I talked about where Jupiter is going to trine Cancer, Jupiter in Cancer is going to trine the North Node in Pisces, for you, this has to do with career and daily life. That it's now time to make these in closer proximity. That if you have had a great career, make sure your lifestyle is just as great. And if you have just a great lifestyle, you're hanging around and having a good time all the time, make sure your career ambitions are also just as great. The way you do this is you coordinate the way they feel. They will feel similar in both cases. And because they feel similar, they are similar, and they'll behave in a similar way. Now, the last thing I want to say for you Librans has to do with the fact that moving forward, you are going to be reinventing yourself real soon. This has been a long time in the making. And I think the opposite side of you, Aries, has been part of it as well. We've noticed that Libras have gotten a lot stronger, and we've noticed that Aries have got a lot softer. So we have been noticing as astrologers that the change we're seeing is something we've never seen before. And what I'm leading to is this. That eclipse that's going on, that 15 degrees Pisces, that eclipse is a Libra eclipse in the sense of it's ruled by Libra, step 15, which tells me if there's an eclipse that's going to knock out all the relationships, I think that relationship makers are the ones who are going to do it. So what I'm saying is I think Libras are about to change the rules on what a relationship is and isn't any second now. And I give you full permission to get started right now. Scorpios, Virgo for you consciousness has to do with your social ambition. And I think for Scorpios, society has always been this way, complicated, lots of details, overwhelming, too heavy, things like that. And, Scorpios have quite often dealt with the public as the heavy, or they've had to be the heavy in the public, the one to draw the boundary. And so your relationship to the public has never really been a fun one. It's more of a clinical one, basically. But you are now going to be healing that relationship to the public and really stepping into a new way of seeing yourself in the context of the world. I think you're going to understand exactly that you are what you are, which is a specialist in some sort of way. But the real fun part is the fact that the Earth is going to be in Pisces, which means that you're going to be manifesting now your personal dreams. It's now time for you to get what you want. It's now time for you to manifest energetically all the things, the toys you wanted, all the adventures you wanted, all the games you wanted, all the vacations you wanted. Yes, it's time. You've worked your tail off and take advantage of this time. Don't try to keep that, extra special gift or reward from the universe too long, because they do wear off, those coupons do expire. Now, Jupiter in Cancer says that as you are trining into the North Node in Pisces, it means that you're going to have to believe you're worth it. You have to believe you have it coming to you. Even if you have the perfect gift given to you from yourself, if you don't believe you deserve it, you're not going to be able to deserve it. So it's time to also chill out on your feelings about beliefs. Scorpios get way too riled up about what they believe and why. And I think a lot of that wind, a lot of that argument is actually sabotaging what can happen for you personally. So maybe if you just give the world maybe a 10th break or a 100th break, you'll be in a good position. So hang in there on that one. And remember that your feelings are important. If you don't feel it, you don't really believe it. Sagittariuses are now reorganizing their career and legacy. They're realizing, hey, it's time to mix things up. It's time to let some things go. You try to be everything to everyone. And eventually a Sagittarius realizes that's just too much work. And so I think that's kind of where it is for the Sagittarius. I think they're going to kind of move out of the, I wouldn't say party scene, but they definitely would life at the party at work. I think they're going to move now into a quieter scene in their life. And, for you, in essence, this involves a couple of things. One, Pisces being that you have got to feel better at home, period. So having better faith in your feelings, having more empathy for yourself, more compassion for yourself. This is what sets the stage for you going after the career you really want, whether it's something very small or very big. So that's super important. I also think that in that sense, Sagittarius are being reassigned. If you're getting a new career, it means you have a new assignment. I think in the last assignment, Sagittarius were here to keep belief structure alive, to teach, to travel, to get us inspired about the earth. But now I think it's going to be a bit more unicorn. I think that Sagittarius are going to go after things we never thought they'd go after. And with that going on, they have with the Jupiter in Cancer, which is going to be trining the North Node in Pisces, it means that you're going to have to make sure that your feelings about your personal boundaries and whether or not you feel safe have got to be coordinated with your home life. And so that trine means that you can no longer operate separately between where you draw the line and where you live at home. You've got to sort of be at home all the time thinking about your personal security. And when you have that security down, the boundaries down, and your emotions in right order, then you can go off and burn and do some crazy stuff in your career and make some crazy strides because you won't overburn your fuel is what I'm trying to say. So good luck with that, Sagittarius. I know you can do it. I want a full report in the morning, so to speak. All right. Capricorns. Cappies, you are now energetically working on a new life purpose. So life used to be about money and power, right? And maybe it still is, but it has some new caveats to it. It has new aspects. New books have been written. And I was talking about this earlier. Capricorns are doing a good job, I think, in the sense of withdrawing from where they had been too controlling, right? And that's a long process. You have Pluto go through your sign. So you're no longer controlling like you were when I was growing up in that sense. But in another sense, you are, right? A lot of Virgos, a lot of Capricorns are still making the same mistakes and really taking the same risks that they did before. They have this assumption that they will get away with it, right? And I don't think that should be the assumption you make. I think you should make the assumption that you know what you're talking about and you believe in yourself. That is the assumption you should make, is believe in yourself and believe in your direction. We really need Capricorns to go tackle some of these bigger issues going on, like new power and clean power and things like that, to bring the business mind where we don't have it and give you a new playing field at this level. So I think Capricorns are going to be ultimately pointing towards a purpose that really means something to them, that really draws out the best of them. And with the Pisces side, it means you've got to be completely compassionate in your mind. There's no way Capricorn's going to make it unless they just forgive themselves for everything every day and just let it go, make it not a big deal. And you may go, well, that's not very, spiritual. Well, yeah, it is. I don't think Spirit ever wants to see you fail or be hurt. Maybe you lose the privilege to hang out, right? But you shouldn't be hurting. You shouldn't have pain. So the interesting thing about Jupiter in Cancer is that the Capricorns are going to be kind of integrating their long-term partnerships with this new sensitivity. Thank goddess, because I was starting to wonder if Aquarius are going to ever do that stuff they need to do. But a lot of it's thanks to you. So you get some accolades right there. Your attitude about financials and property, I'm sure, very inspiring. I think also what's very inspiring is just like the way you can live so comfortably. On certain dollars, you're kind of frugal. So a lot to teach the world, and people can learn a lot from you. But make sure, right, that you are taking care of your feelings and nurturing yourself, because Jupiter trining Pisces means that it's now your job 100%. Otherwise, you're not going to be opening that new door to the new world. I don't think you can let it be thrown on other people's shoulders anymore. Capricorns have got to self-nurture, all right, in order to have that life purpose that they really want and have their mind be forgiving. Aquarius. Aquarius, it's so fun to watch you grow. Moving forward, you are changing dramatically. And this area, I don't think people can see it, but I do see it happening in the net results. And that is personal boundaries, okay? Aquariuses are Virgos when it comes to personal boundaries. And so you have all these boundaries and all these rules and all these reasons why, to the point where it's impossible to figure out how to get through your door. And I know you're trying to block up, access to God and other 5D doors that you don't want to go down yet. But you are now going to reorganize your boundary structure. It's going to maybe fall under a nice, way of organization. Maybe you're going to change all your, passwords to be a certain kind of coding. But in reality, you're going to be changing the resolution of how you draw boundaries. You don't have to have it to the nth degree, basically. Now, what happens is for you to draw these new boundaries and cut people in and cut people out, you have to really have faith in your value and what you're worth. You can't question that anymore. You have to know what you're worth and just, go to the grave knowing that and not let it get in the way. And maybe it's very exaggerated. I mean, it's much higher than what people would ask for, but it's now time that you claim that and ask the universe, and put down on the table, how much do you want to make, right? Let that question be answered. Now, with Jupiter in Cancer, it does mean that for you to really have that value, you've got to feel peaceful in the moment. You got to feel well nurtured in the moment. You got to feel like you're on top of your feelings in the moment. You really can't linger, let that answer linger, for you. And so by feeling good in the moment, then you'll be able to really focus on feeling good with other aspects of your life, namely money and things like that. But you'll be able to feel good about money, be able to feel good about your abundance, and all that feeling good will allow you to step away from those sticky boundaries. We had all those rules that nobody could keep up with, especially once you start to go 5D. That's the last thing I'm going to say to Aquarius is that I'm noticing the Aquarius is really coming online with their powers. They've been telling me stuff about the visualizations that they're having, dreams they're having, past life memories of Atlantis they're having. It's like no joke. To some degree, I can't believe how much is coming out exactly like we predicted. And we're only at step 2 with Pluto. So hang on to your hats, Aquas. You've got so much change to happen. But the good news is have faith in the money, change those boundaries, and you'll find that you feel much better moment to moment. And the Pisces. Pisces, this is going to affect you probably the most with these planets. As you may or may not know, the North Node is in your sign, and the South Node is in Virgo. Now, what that means is that you are now stepping away from, old ego patterns, old behavior patterns, old ways of responding. And this was like a passive-aggressive or a ghosting technique. You just like ghost out of the room and find, if we go find you and you're naked in bed already. Pisces are kind of funny that way. So your behavior is sort of being discontinued in lots of ways. So a new behavior can come in or a new personality can come in. And this personality is based on winning. It's not based on losing or being in trouble. So I think a lot of Pisces are going to get a break somehow. I don't know how, but I feel like you're going to get a break. I think you should ask for one if you have the opportunity to, because what you're ultimately doing is transforming the core of yourself. This is your mirror we're talking about, how you relate to yourself. This is, also how you relate to your partnerships. And what has to happen is a greater frequency and a greater knowledge, more data when it comes to your relationships, because you haven't had enough data in that regard. And then, of course, after you get the data, you've got to also analyze it. So basically what I'm saying is to Pisces, you're ready to come in their prime, and you're ready to do some things we've never seen before. But it looks like because you've been sort of used to just swimming in the fish tank and going in circles, you're going to have to figure out a lot of stuff that people already know. And the biggest one has to do with, how you treat yourself and then how you treat others in your relationships. Getting that down first is going to give you the strength to really follow through with your Cancer desires, which, by the way, I think are going to be pretty interesting because you're going to really be changing your personal dreams. Jupiter in Cancer says, hey, it's time for Pisces to have everything they want. It's time for their dreams to come true. It's time for them to wish upon a star. And every time I tell Pisces that, they're kind of like, I don't know. So it'd be interesting. You might be the first generation I've ever seen to dodge your report of fortune, or maybe not. Maybe it's just a little too early for it. Either way, Pisces, this is also the end of the Christian era, so to speak, the old religious era. And so it's also going to be your role to help people forgive, forget, and to let themselves off the hook, which you've been learning to do since 2012. All right, friends, that's all we have for this week's Soul Horoscopes and the Zodiac Weather. So much going on. We're going to be going through a lot of changes as things come up. But in the meantime, we do want to say a few things. For one, we always have this show come up with promos. So check out our little shorts and whatnot. We put them out there, hand them to your friends, pass them on to people, post them on your site for us. We have noticed there's been a real decrease in YouTube volume, and we think that's due to YouTube, not necessarily due to you. So we're asking you as a friend to please be kind and share our clips. Coming right after the show, we're going to have actually ASTRO Mingle, if you haven't figured that out yet. It does start at another file, so you have to click and watch that. But tonight we're going to have Jamie Price, author of Opening to Light Language and the Cosmic Conscious Ascension Deck. So a very cool healer and channel, and I can't wait to have that conversation here in a few minutes. Also, we want to say that we are very grateful for your sharing. If you share us on your social media, if you share us to your friends and family, that's the old school way of saying you endorse us, and sharing is caring. Please let us know if you have shared. If you tell us, we'll come around and do something a little special for you as well. Otherwise, folks, we do have our Facebook group at seriousjoy.club. You can come meet us and hang out in the Facebook group. We have a lot of people there. We have our link tree as well at seriousjoy.social, so you can see all different varieties of where we have content on. And we also have podcasts now. And now we do have podcasts. We have Namaste Today podcast, and now we have Astro Mingle being podcast. And that's on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, and also Heart Radio is a new one that has been added as well. So there's a lot to see in Serious Joy, and there's a lot to learn too. We're grateful for you. We love you. Live, love, be.
Coming up next week on Serious Joy TV. Join Sensei Christopher and co-host psychic medium Scott Cruz live on Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. You'll never guess what they'll talk about next. Then tune in to Astro Mingle for an interview with the feel-good expert Tanji Nudimi, an astrology and human design mentor with over 7 years of deep study. Find out why her clients trust her to elevate their understanding of energy and alignment. The best in enlightened entertainment, only on Serious Joy TV.